Dr. Chinny, and I am an associate professor in enterprise and corporate development. I am based in a university in the United Kingdom within the West Midlands regions of the United Kingdom. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to be talking us through the title Factors that Will Drive Growth for Small Business Enterprises. So, my intention is to focus on small businesses with the aim to highlight how we can support small businesses to drive growth and for the purpose of driving productivity and, of course, enabling small businesses to remain sustainable. So, as a way of opening remark, it is common knowledge that small businesses are key for economic growth for any region or country. They provide opportunities for innovative capabilities and, of course, enable opportunities for increased partnerships. Now, amidst all these benefits that small businesses present, evidence still show that small businesses still struggle to remain productive. Small businesses struggle to remain sustainable. Now, this could be as a result of lack of adequate business management processes or management business practices. So through my talk or presentation, I want to draw our attention to the essence or the relevance of intentional business management processes for the purpose of driving productivity for small businesses. So I will reiterate my earlier point in terms of drawing our attention to the role or the essence of intentional business management processes towards driving growth, towards driving productivity of small businesses. Now, let's explore what I mean by intentional business management processes. You could view this in the context of an internal aspect or the external aspect. So what I mean by internal aspect could be in terms of the communication strategy that a particular small business uses to drive growth. It could be in terms of what they do to empower employees, what they do to motivate their employees. So they are looking within what business management practices within the organization will help them drive growth. So they are looking for processes within internal or management processes that are internal within the businesses that they would need to look at or explore a bit further for the purpose of driving growth. Now, external aspects could be things around the mission or the mission statement of a particular business. So this is where a small business takes stock in terms of what their mission statement is. Does it actually reflect what they do as a business? So the external aspect or the external aspect of business management processes looks at what are the things that some other people could see externally with respect to the business. Now, this is where a small business questions or reviews what they do in terms of growing their client base, in terms of increasing their customer base. They're looking at their marketing strategy, they're looking at their segmentation, they're looking at how they target clients. Remember, we're talking about driving growth or driving productivity. So, which means the marketing strategy or what a particular small business is considers for the purpose of growing their client base has a fundamental role to play when it comes to driving growth and productivity. So, having now given us some insight in terms of what I mean by the business management processes, whether you're viewing it internally. So this is where the small business looks within the organization, whether they have that agile and sustainable workplace environment, or you're viewing it externally in terms of what they do with respect to, say, the marketing strategies, how they sort of engage their clients, how they satisfy their clients or increase their client base, as the case may be, their performance in a strategy. So having now gained some insight on what I mean by business management practices or processes, the question again is, how can small business or small businesses, which we know now is an asset for economic growth, which we know now is an asset for development, how can small businesses be supported? How can they be enabled to compete effectively? How can they be gingered? How can they be energized to drive productivity? Okay, so when I say how can small businesses be supported or how can they be enabled to compete effectively and to drive productivity, one of the things I'm capitalizing on really is how we can support small businesses to clearly identify their factors of growth. Okay, so a small business may perceive themselves to be a business that is sustainable or a business that is growing over time. But from experience, sometimes some small businesses don't actually have an understanding of their factors of growth. So, how can we support businesses towards identifying their factors of growth? One. And then, having now identified their factors of growth, how can we support them towards implementing or effectively implementing those factors of growth? You would notice that I said earlier from experience. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of insight in terms of what I mean from experience. I am currently a program director for a number of executive education programs within the university where I work. So I have an experience of supporting and working with a wide range of small business enterprises across different business sectors. And in terms of setting the scene around how we can support small businesses to identify their factors of growth and subsequently support them towards implementing those factors of growth. Something I've noticed as a program director for a number of executive education programs is that I've seen business leaders who are usually on the lookout, or what you might be, there is that appetite for them to drive growth. And I believe that is really common. Any business will want to grow. So when a particular business leader is looking for ways or avenues to grow their businesses, one of the things they look for is how do I grow myself as an individual? How do I become better in what I do as a leader or as a manager, as a case may be, for the purpose of growing maybe a specific aspect of their business? So one of the key things they usually do is, oh, is there something I need to work on myself on for the purpose of personal development or for the purpose of professional development? So that's setting the scene. How do I develop myself as an individual or as a business, as a manager, as a leader for the purpose of driving growth? And one of the things they do in terms of developing themselves is get enrolled onto one or more executive education program. Right. So therefore, these business leaders, they have that passion, that determination to grow their business. So they get enrolled or they pursue enterprise or executive education program. Now, particularly what they're looking for is an environment or a program that will equip them or offer practical steps towards addressing specific business need. Now, remember, they're trying to drive growth. They're trying to drive maybe a specific aspect of your business. So, getting enrolled or pursuing a particular enterprise or executive education program could be a step in the right direction. Why? Well, I think the reason is quite clear, and I've got it on the slide. They want to address a particular, an ongoing business need. They want to address an emerging business challenge. So you would notice that I am highlighting maybe the essence of an enterprise or an executive education program. So one of the key reasons or a number of reasons why maybe a business leader gets themselves enrolled onto an enterprise or executive education program is, remember, they're trying to address a particular business need. They're trying to maybe deal with an emerging business challenge. Now, the executive education program are designed to create that environment to empower these business leaders towards implementing the drivers or factors of growth. Now, cast your mind back to what I said earlier. We're trying to support small businesses towards one, identifying their factors of growth. Secondly, supporting these small businesses or business leaders towards implementing those factors of growth. So, which means an environment that will create um, an opportunity for the business leaders to actually get to implement those factors of growth could be an environment of enterprise or executive education program. So now moving on to the factors that drive growth for small businesses. I'm hoping that you've been waiting to see a slide like this. So what I've tried to do is to capture a number of factors that could drive growth for small business. So assuming I've got a small business that is listening to my presentation, I'm hoping that you're nodding your heads now and said, oh yeah, that is one of the factors that will drive growth for my business, or that is one of the factors that currently drives growth for my business. So this is not an exhaustive list. So it gives us an indication of a number of factors that could or currently are driving growth for small businesses. Okay, so I've got exactly the same thing on this slide like I had on the previous slide. So what I've simply done is to put some colors on it for the purpose of categorizing the different factors of growth. You would notice that the ones that I've got on blue or light blue are factors that you could say that are directly linked to the employees or colleagues or staff within a particular organization. So I hope this helps, grouping them together for you to begin to see, which ones, if you're a small business, are directly linked to you or you see as possible factors of growth that you could begin to think about how you can get to implement. The only one I put on black is building relationships and networking. I feel that this is a factor that is and should be applicable to whatever business that you belong to or whatever sector that you belong to. That is a factor that you've got to, as a business, keep going back and identifying how you can actually get to leverage this and how it can be effectively implemented for the purpose of encouraging and fostering consistent continuous growth within your business. Okay, now remember, there are two things we are looking at on how to support small businesses. One is to help small businesses identify their factors of growth. Secondly, support them towards implementing those factors of growth. So the previous slide or two slides have simply shown us what the different factors of growth. Not an exhaustive list, but it gives us an idea of the different factors of growth. So we've identified a number of growth factors or growth drivers. Now, but it's one thing to identify the factors of growth. We've got to make it count. We've got to take those factors of growth and begin to use them or implement them within the businesses to see the growth or see sustainability, productivity happen. So this is what I mean by making it count. The it here means that factor of growth. So in making it count as a small business, you've got to ask yourself a number of questions. Now, in asking yourself a number of questions, you're thinking about how you can get to implement those factors to generate growth for you as a business. So one of the questions you would ask is how exactly will that factor create value for your customers? So you see what you've done. So how exactly will, for example, building relationships as a factor of growth, how would it create value for your customers? So in responding to that question, you're beginning to put down specifics on what you're going to do to build relationships for the purpose of meeting value for your customers. How does that factor relate to your vision and core value? This is absolutely essential. So, your vision is what you stand for as a business. Your core value is who you are as a business. So, that factor of growth has got to demonstrate a direct link to your vision and your core value as a business. Because if it doesn't, employees within the business are going to question what's the point? So, whatever factor of growth you identify, one of the things you've got to do right from the onset is make a direct link or direct connection between that factor of growth and your vision, with your vision and core value. Okay, and a number of other questions that I've got on the slide. A key one there is who is required to implement that factor of growth? Who do you need to consult with? What resources do you need? So, in asking this, you see specifics are having a part to play. So, it's one thing to identify the factor of growth. Now, you're beginning to work out how do I get it to work for my business to generate growth? Right. The point of the slide is to put some relevance to some of the learnings that happen for business leaders within an enterprise or an executive education program. So you would most likely be introduced to a number of frameworks, a number of models, and you're wondering what exactly is this? Okay, so what I've tried to do with this slide is to sort of cast your mind back, assuming I've got maybe a business leader may have engaged or currently engaging with an executive education program. A popular framework would be maybe the SWOT analysis. Let's focus on that one. There are other frameworks I've got on the slide, but let's take the SWOT analysis for example, because that is quite easy and straightforward to understand. You've got the strength, you've got the weakness, you've got the opportunities and the threats. So the whole essence of a particular business model or a framework is now you're trying to make that factor of growth relevant. So let's say, for example, I take customer retention as a factor of growth. So what are the strengths for me as a business for in relation to customer retention? What are the weaknesses that my business um, might have in connection to customer retention? So when you slot all these things in terms of the strengths related to customer retention, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats, assuming you're using the SWOT analysis, you're beginning to think more about your own business and what you do. You're identifying strategic actions and maybe where you might put the most emphasis on if you're having to use or apply the SWOT analysis is this opportunities quadrant. So you're beginning to say, oh, there are opportunities for me as a business with respect to customer retention. And when you see those opportunities, they would serve as what you might call motivators or incentives, or you have that appetite. You generate an appetite within you, or I'm going to definitely implement this particular factor of growth because there's an opportunity there for you as a business. So the point of this slide is begin to apply some of those frameworks that has been introduced to you in connection to what you have identified as your factors of growth. Right, so this is an example of where I have applied a particular business model, that I had on the previous slide, which is the business model canvas. So I've applied it for a particular business, Exelon Limited, and I've taken a strand of Exelon Limited. They are Jara Right Services. And the particular factor of growth I'm putting emphasis on is visibility in different channels. So they have identified visibility in different channels as a factor of growth. So what does that mean? How can they begin to work out strategic actions, things they need to begin to act on to implement this particular factor, visibility in different channels? So if you look at this particular business model canvas, you would notice that there are about one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 9 different elements. So you've got the key activities, you've got the key resources, you've got the value proposition, the customer relationships, and so on. So there are different elements of this particular model or framework. So what I've done as a way to apply or use this framework and also make this particular factor of growth, visibility in different channels, relevant is, for example, for key partners, who and who do I need to partner with as a business to be able to make myself visible in different channels? I've listed all those things. So I'll take actions towards partnering with them. What key activities do I need to begin to execute to become more visible in different channels? I've listed all those activities, and on to the rest till I complete or fill up this particular framework. So this is an application of this framework, and you're working out how to get to implement that factor of growth. This becomes workable and this becomes achievable. And hopefully, by the time a particular business begins to put into practice a number of things that they've listed on this business model canvas with respect to implementing a factor of growth, hopefully they will begin to see some change in a specific or specific aspects of their business. So recall, cast your mind back, we started out with helping, how do we support small businesses towards identifying their factors of growth? Secondly, how do we support them towards implementing? So this is an example of how we can support small businesses to implement an identified factor of growth. Right, to bring my presentation to a close, this slide provides a summary of what I've said so far. So I'll try not to slavishly read through what I've got on the slide. I think, what the slide simply showcases is what I set out to do right at the beginning, which is how we can support small businesses towards remaining productive, driving growth, driving sustainability, and of course, remaining sustainable in today's fast evolving market environment. Thank you so much for listening. I've got my name and contact details on the slide, and please feel free to get in touch if you want to collaborate or if you want to know more. Thank you.